The story follows a single black father, Derek Matthews, who has worked tirelessly to build a successful career in the tech industry, despite facing systemic obstacles and personal challenges. When he arrives at a prestigious event, he is wrongfully stopped at the entrance by security, who assume he's just a guest or an attendee. The situation is tense, but after a series of misunderstandings, Derek calmly and confidently reveals his identity. He's the keynote speaker for the evening. What follows is a powerful exploration of identity, resilience, and breaking stereotypes. As Derek takes the stage, he doesn't just deliver a speech on business success, but on overcoming adversity, race, and the struggles of being a single father. The event becomes a turning point for him, for the audience, and for his personal growth, as he shatters the assumptions people had about him and others like him. Derek Matthews had spent weeks preparing for this moment. The prestigious tech conference was finally here, a platform where the brightest minds came together to exchange ideas, showcase innovations, and celebrate success. His invitation had been clear: keynote speaker, Derek Matthews, CEO of Innovative Solutions. It was a major moment in his career. But as he approached the entrance, a knot of anxiety tightened in his chest. As he walked toward the grand lobby of the convention center, Derek couldn't help but feel a sense of pride. He had built everything he had from the ground up. As a single father raising his daughter, he had endured countless sleepless nights, rejections, and moments of self-doubt. Yet here he was, about to stand before hundreds of industry leaders. But when he reached the entrance, things didn't go as smoothly as expected. "Excuse me, sir, can I help you?" a security guard asked, eyeing him suspiciously. Derek blinked. In surprise, "I'm one of the speakers for the event." The guard looked him up and down, then glanced at the clipboard in his hand. "Are you sure? You don't look like a speaker." A cold wave of frustration washed over Derek. "I assure you, I'm Derek Matthews. I'm here for the keynote speech." The security guard, still skeptical, reached for his walkie-talkie. "Let me check your credentials." Derek's pulse quickened. He couldn't believe this was happening. He had been to high-profile events before, but he had never been questioned like this. There was no mistaking it. His appearance was the reason for the scrutiny. Derek was black, wearing a smart but simple suit, and had a quiet confidence that didn't match the stereotypical image of a tech mogul. The minutes dragged on, each second adding more weight to Derek's frustration. He could feel the eyes of the other attendees on him, some watching curiously, others with judgment. His hand gripped the strap of his bag, his thoughts racing. Was this what it was always going to be like? Was every success always going to be tainted with the assumption that he didn't belong? Mr. Matthews? A voice from behind him interrupted his thoughts. It was the event coordinator, a woman in her late 20s, wearing a name tag that read Emma. She smiled awkwardly, clearly trying to diffuse the tension. "We've been waiting for you. The keynote presentation is about to start. Please follow me." Derek nodded, his jaw clenched in frustration, but he followed her without a word. He didn't want to make a scene, but he was boiling inside. As they walked through the corridors, Emma tried to make small talk, but Derek wasn't interested. His mind was already focused on what was to come. This moment was supposed to be his triumph, his time to shine, and yet here he was, being treated like an outsider. When they reached the backstage area, Emma handed him a microphone and briefed him quickly on the logistics. "You'll be up in a couple of minutes. The stage is ready." "You've got this, Mr. Matthews." Derek nodded again. He had to shake off the sting of the encounter. He had earned his place here. As he walked toward the stage entrance, he took a deep breath, ready to show the world who he was and what he represented. The auditorium lights dimmed, and the audience hushed as the event announcer took the microphone. "Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome our keynote speaker for the evening, Derek Matthews. Derek stepped onto the stage, the bright lights hitting him immediately, blinding him momentarily. The audience's eyes were on him, expectant. He could feel the weight of their gaze, but he didn't falter. He stood tall, his heart steady. He had made it. This was his moment. He began with a simple but powerful statement. "I'm not the person you expected, am I?" The audience chuckled softly, but Derek's voice held a quiet intensity. "I'm sure many of you assumed I was someone else, based on how I looked, based on the way I carry myself. Maybe you thought I was a tech worker or a startup employee. But let me tell you something. The world has a funny way of shaping our perceptions, and sometimes it's not just what we see on the outside that matters." Derek paused, looking out into the sea of faces before him. "I'm a single black father," he continued, "and every single day I wake up and fight for my daughter, for my family, for a better future. I built this company, Innovative Solutions, not just to make money, but to prove that a black man from a tough neighborhood could do anything he set his mind to." He let his words sink in. The room was quiet now, listening intently. "I've faced obstacles that some of you can't even imagine. I've been underestimated, disrespected, treated like I don't belong, but here I am. I made it, and not just for me, but for all the single parents, for all the people who have been told they couldn't make it because of where they came from, or how they look, or who they love." The audience was now fully engaged. Derek's voice had grown stronger, more passionate. "Success isn't just about money, about who you know, or the doors that open for you. Success is about resilience. It's about fighting when you're told to quit. It's about believing in yourself, even when the world tells you otherwise." Derek smiled, his eyes scanning the crowd. "So no, I may not look like the typical keynote speaker, but I'm exactly who I'm supposed to be." After his speech, Derek was surrounded by a flurry of people, eager to meet the man who had just delivered such an impactful message. The security guard who had stopped him earlier was now among them, apologizing profusely for the misunderstanding. "I'm so sorry, Mr. Matthews. I didn't realize." He stamenered. Derek nodded, but instead of holding a grudge, he smiled warmly. "It's all right. I understand. But let's remember, assumptions can limit us." As he left the event later that night, Derek felt a sense of pride he had never felt before. It wasn't just about the speech. It was about showing the world that people like him had a voice, that they mattered. The world might try to put him in a box, but he would break out of it every time. For Derek, the night wasn't just a success. It was a new beginning. Derek hadn't anticipated the ripple effect his speech would cause. The day after the event, his keynote was all over the news and social media. What was supposed to be a simple talk about technology and innovation quickly turned into a landmark moment, symbolizing a struggle against stereotypes and societal barriers. His phone buzzed constantly. Messages of support flooded in colleagues, strangers, even former classmates reaching out to express gratitude for his courage and authenticity. Some thanked him for shedding light on uncomfortable truths, while others congratulated him for addressing racial bias head-on. But amidst the flood of messages were those that expressed discomfort. Some powerful figures in the industry were clearly unsettled by the impact his words had. "You hit a nerve, Derek," said Michael, a longtime colleague and investor. "Some of my partners were uncomfortable with your approach. They thought it was aggressive." Derek took a deep breath. He knew his bluntness wouldn't be embraced by everyone, but he also knew it was the price to pay for staying true to himself. "It wasn't about being aggressive, Michael. It was about being real. Some people don't want to hear the truth because it forces them to change." A few weeks later, Derek was invited to a private meeting with top industry leaders and investors. They wanted to discuss the impact of his speech, and more importantly, understand his vision for the future. Derek knew this could be an opportunity to open doors, but also a chance to reinforce his commitment to his values. The room was sleek and impersonal, everyone wearing tailored suits, the air thick with discussions about profits and projections. Derek, dressed simply but sharply, felt slightly out of place. But he wasn't there to impress anyone. "You raised some interesting points, Derek," began Helen, one of the most influential executives in the tech world. "But we need to address your focus on identity. On be who you are. Don't you think that limits the potential of your company? After all, the market doesn't care about that. What matters is innovation. The rest is just noise." Derek smiled calmly, unfazed. Innovation and technology are, of course, important. But behind every innovation, there are people. And those people, myself included, have stories, struggles, and journeys that cannot be ignored. There was something more at play here. The industry was asking him to conform to a narrative that he knew was narrow. But Derek wouldn't bend. Not anymore. Derek made it clear he would not just stay true to his principles, but he would transform his company to reflect his vision of inclusion and diversity. He knew that if he was going to make a difference, it had to go beyond words. He needed to create an environment where talent could thrive without limits based on race, class, or gender. Innovative Solutions began to stand out for its radically different approach. The company wasn't just focused on technological products. It also fostered an environment where talent could flourish irrespective of background. One of the first initiatives Derek launched was a mentorship program for young people from marginalized communities. The program offered training in tech, software design, and business development. Derek's mission was clear: empower the next generation of innovators. Moreover, he instated a diversity policy at the executive level, hiring leaders and specialists from varied backgrounds and life experiences. He fostered an inclusive work environment, one where people were encouraged to bring their full selves to work. Despite the growing success of his company, Derek soon found himself facing even more criticism. Members of the old guard in the industry, who had benefited from a system of privilege, began to question his choices. "You're dismantling the very structure that made your company thrive," said Victor, one of the most powerful investors in the sector. "When you start mixing politics and business, you lose focus. Your mission should be about profit, not socialism." Derek met Victor's gaze, his expression unwavering. "I believe profit can come from doing good. If we can't positively impact people's lives, then what's the point of our success?" The tension between Derek and his more traditional investors began to grow. They pushed him to abandon his radical approach and adopt a more conventional stance focused on short-term profits. Derek knew this was a turning point. With mounting pressure both internally and externally, Derek began to feel overwhelmed. The sleepless nights increased. The weight of being a role model for so many people was beginning to take a toll on him emotionally. He started questioning himself. Am I doing the right thing? Am I just creating another system that'll become just as flawed as the ones I'm trying to break down? His relationship with his daughter Maya also began to suffer. She was growing up quickly, and although Derek was always working hard, he found himself missing precious moments of her childhood. It felt as though he was living in two worlds, the fight for change and the home he wanted to be the best father in. One night, after a tense meeting about the impact of his company on the community, Derek returned home earlier than usual. Maya was sitting on the couch watching a cartoon, but when she saw him, she gave him a shy smile. "Are you okay, Daddy?" she asked, her voice filled with concern. Derek knelt beside her, feeling the weight of his own tension. "Yeah, I'm okay. Just trying to figure out everything that's going on. But I want you to know that everything I'm doing is for you, for your future, For a better world. Maya, in her innocence, took his hand. I know, Daddy. You're doing good things. Just don't forget to play with me sometimes. Her simple request made Derek pause. He had been so focused on the future that he was missing the present. That moment with Maya was the reminder he needed. Change started within his home. With the relationship he built with her. Derek knew that he needed to make a decision. He could either continue fighting his investors and the old guard of the industry, or he could step away and focus on building something entirely new, something that truly reflected the kind of society he wanted to create. He thought of Maya's words, of all the young people he could impact with innovative solutions vision. We'll fight for this, he said to himself, looking toward the future. I won't give up. Derek decided it was time to move beyond the limitations of traditional business models. He began pivoting innovative solutions into a social enterprise model where profit would no longer be the sole driver. Instead, the company would focus on making a measurable impact in the communities it served. This shift attracted a new wave of investors, those who shared his vision for ethical business practices and social change. As his company began gaining momentum in this new direction, Derek realized that the personal sacrifices he made, the risks he took, were worth it. The goal was always bigger than profits. It was about shaping a world that allowed everyone to succeed, no matter where they came from. As the company expanded its influence globally, Derek's story became a symbol of hope and resilience. He was invited to speak at universities, corporate events, and community gatherings. His message was clear. Equality and opportunity were not just buzzwords. They were essential to the future. The impact of innovative solutions grew beyond just tech. It was a movement for change, for a new way of doing business. And through it all, Derek had one thing in mind: his daughter, and the future he wanted to create for her and millions of others. As innovative solutions grew, so did the scrutiny on Derek. His company had become a symbol, not just for technological progress, but for social change. But the bigger they became, the harder they fell when challenges arose. A major partnership deal, one that could have expanded their reach internationally, was suddenly at risk. The partner company, a large conglomerate with a history of questionable labor practices, began backing out due to the pressure from its shareholders. They feared the association with innovative solutions. Social justice ethos would affect their bottom line. Derek sat in his office late one evening, staring at the numbers on the screen. This deal would have provided enough capital to scale their work exponentially, allowing them to reach communities that needed it most. But he couldn't compromise his values. Do we walk away, or do we find a way to make this work? He asked Michael, who had become his most trusted advisor. Michael leaned back, his face pensive. This could hurt us, Derek. But if you back down, now, all that talk about your principles, it'll ring hollow. People are watching, Derek nodded, and we fight. But we fight on our terms. The situation escalated when a group of activists, inspired by Derek's vision, organized a public demonstration outside the conglomerate's headquarters, urging them to uphold their agreement with innovative solutions. Social media buzzed, with debates about the ethics of corporate partnerships, with many siding with Derek. The conglomerate's CEO, pressured by public opinion, reached out to Derek for a meeting. This was his chance to make a stand, not just for his company, but for the very principles on which it was founded. In the boardroom, Derek faced the CEO, a man who had spent decades building his empire on traditional profit-driven values. The tension in the air was palpable. Mr. Turner, Derek began, his voice steady but firm. This is about more than just profits. It's about whether or not we're willing to build a world where people are treated with dignity and respect, regardless of the color of their skin or their economic background. You can either be a part of that future, or you can choose to stay in the past. The CEO, silent for a long moment, finally responded, "We'll make it work. But it's going to take time and a lot of compromises." Derek nodded. "I'm not interested in compromises. I'm interested in change." Despite winning the deal, the tension continued to build. Derek was feeling the pressure from all sides. His own team had mixed reactions to the latest developments. While many celebrated the deal as a win, others questioned if it was worth the moral compromises that had been made. "You can't keep pushing like this, Derek," Michael said one evening, frustration in his voice. "At some point, you're going to alienate everyone, not just the investors, but the people who believed in you." Derek ran his hands through his hair, feeling the weight of the world on his shoulders. He knew that the balance between ideals and practical realities was fragile, but he couldn't afford to back down now. "We've come too far." "I'm not stopping," Derek replied, his voice unwavering. "If we stop now, we become just like every other company out there. I can't do that." The following months were filled with high-stakes decisions, public scrutiny, and personal turmoil. Derek's reputation continued to grow as a leader, but so did the controversy surrounding his approach. He was often criticized in the media for not being a pragmatist, for putting ideals above practical business decisions at home. The pressure was starting to show. Maya was getting older, and she began noticing the strain in her father's face. "Daddy, why are you always so tired?" she asked one night, her young eyes full of concern. Derek sat down beside her, a tired smile on his face. "Just working hard to make the world a better place for you, Maya." But even as he said the words, he knew that he was losing sight of the very thing that had started this journey in the first place: his family. His relationship with Maya had become strained as his work consumed him more and more. One unexpected ally emerged during this time: Helen, the influential executive who had previously questioned Derek's approach. She reached out to him, offering advice and support. "I've been watching you, Derek," she said in a phone call. "You're doing something that's going to change everything. But you're not in this alone." Derek, caught off guard, took a moment before responding. "I appreciate that, Helen, but I've had to make some tough choices, ones that not everyone agrees with. I can't keep fighting battles on every front." "I know," she said, "but that's the price of real change. You're going to face resistance, but it's worth it, and you don't have to do it by yourself." With Helen's encouragement, Derek found new strength to face the challenges ahead. He realized that while the road would be difficult, he didn't have to walk it alone. There were people who shared his vision, and those people could help him weather the storm. By the end of the year, Innovative Solutions had secured another significant partnership with a non-profit tech incubator that aligned with Derek's values. This was a huge win, showing that there was room in the market for ethical business practices. It wasn't just about profit, it was about creating lasting impact in communities that had been ignored for too long. The partnership also provided an opportunity for Innovative Solutions to expand into new regions, bringing technology and education to underserved areas around the world. Derek saw it as a major step forward, not just for his company, but for the entire tech industry. As the company grew, Derek found balance in his personal life. He had learned to make time for Maya, to reconnect with his family, and to focus on the long-term goals that truly mattered. His vision had always been about more than just building a company. It was about building a better future for everyone. Maya, now a little older, began to understand the work her father did. One evening she asked him, "Dad, when I grow up, can I help change the world too?" Derek smiled, his heart swelling with pride. "You already are, Maya. You already are." As Innovative Solutions expanded, Derek began to take on a more strategic role. No longer was he just the visionary CEO. He had become the face of a movement a symbol of what was possible when you refused to settle for the status quo. His schedule grew busier, the meetings longer, and the pressure to lead by example heavier. Despite his success, Derek found himself questioning if he was making enough of a difference. The world was shifting in unpredictable ways, and while his company was thriving, many of the problems he was passionate about still felt unresolved. Sometimes it feels like I'm just putting out fires, but the flames are still burning, Derek admitted to Michael during a late-night conversation at the office. Michael nodded, understanding the weight of his friend's words. Change doesn't happen overnight, but you're doing something that most people won't even try. You're laying the groundwork for something big. Derek took a deep breath, realizing the truth in Michael's words. He wasn't just fighting for innovative solutions. He was fighting for a whole new way of doing business. And that, in itself, was a battle worth fighting. Not everyone was happy with Derek's success. As his company grew, a silent opposition began to take form. Whispers circulated among the powerful elite in the tech world. Some saw Derek's approach as a threat. He wasn't just disrupting the market. He was challenging the very foundations on which their wealth and power were built. Derek received a series of anonymous emails, subtly attempting to undermine his credibility. The messages painted him as a radical who was trying to dismantle the very systems that had allowed companies like his to thrive. "Don't let them get to you," Helen said during one of their frequent meetings. "They'll do anything to stop someone like you. But you've already shown you're not afraid to stand your ground." Despite the constant barrage of criticism, Derek knew that backing down wasn't an option. But the weight of it all began to take its toll. During a particularly intense company meeting, Derek introduced a new concept, the idea of community leadership. He wanted the leadership at Innovative Solutions to operate not just as business executives, but as community advocates. The model wasn't just about making decisions. It was about listening to the voices of the people who would be most affected by those decisions. "Leadership isn't just about being in charge," Derek said. "It's about being a steward of the people and communities we serve. We have a responsibility to lead with integrity and compassion." His proposal was met with mixed reactions. Some leaders on his team embraced the idea wholeheartedly, excited about the shift. Others, more traditional in their approach, felt uncomfortable with the idea that the company's success would now be measured by social impact as much as financial growth. But Derek remained steadfast. He knew that the future of business wasn't just about innovation. It was about how businesses contributed to the well-being of the world around them. Derek's personal life continued to be a balancing act. Maya was growing older, and though they had become closer in recent months, Derek still felt like he was missing out on precious moments with her. He knew the time would come when she would no longer need him the way she did when she was younger. One evening, as they sat in the living room, Maya asked, "Dad, what happens when you're done changing the world? What will you do then?" Derek paused, taken aback by her question. He had never really thought about an end to his journey. He was so focused on the present, on the mission, that he hadn't considered what would come after. "I don't know," he admitted. "Maybe I'll help someone else make their mark on the world. Maybe I'll just spend more time with you." Maya smiled, a knowing look in her eyes. "I think you've already changed the world, but I think you still need time to change it with me." Derek hugged her tightly, realizing that his journey wasn't just about the global impact he sought. It was about the personal connections he had yet to fully nurture. As Innovative Solutions continued to thrive, the company's initiatives began to gain international recognition. They had become more than just a tech startup. They were a movement that was changing the way businesses interacted with society. Derek's speech at a United Nations Forum on Sustainable Development further solidified his place as one of the foremost advocates for ethical entrepreneurship. "We can't keep pretending that the world's problems are separate from the world's economy," Derek had said in his address. The two are interconnected, and the sooner we realize that, the sooner we can create solutions that serve everyone. His words resonated across the globe. Soon, other companies began following innovative solutions model, adopting their principles of social responsibility, sustainability, and inclusive growth. However, not all of the tech giants were pleased with Derek's newfound influence. A few of the more established companies attempted to discredit him, painting him as naive or impractical. But Derek had learned to let the criticism roll off him. His mission was clear: to create a more equitable world for future generations, especially for young people like Maya. A few months later, Derek received an invitation to speak at his alma mater, the university where he had once been the young, ambitious student trying to prove himself in a world stacked against him. The event was held in the same auditorium where he had once sat in the audience, dreaming of the day when he might have a platform of his own. As he stepped onto the stage, he couldn't help but reflect on how far he had come. His journey had been fraught with obstacles, both external and internal, but each challenge had shaped him into the leader he was today. "This is for you," Derek whispered to himself as he looked out at the sea of eager faces. He knew that his work was far from over, but he was ready for whatever came next. Because for Derek, this wasn't just about changing the world. It was about giving people like him the space to dream bigger and to show the world that, no matter where you come from, you have the power to shape the future. The impact of Derek's work was undeniable. As innovative solutions reached new heights, Derek began to transition out of the day-to-day operations of the company, passing the reins to a new generation of leaders within the organization. "I've done my part," Derek told Michael one morning. "Now it's time to let the next wave take over." But even as he stepped back from the helm of the company, Derek's influence continued to grow, not just in tech, but in every field where social justice and innovation intersected. His vision for a more inclusive world had become a lasting legacy, one that would continue to inspire future leaders. And as Derek looked out over the city skyline, he knew that the real change had only just begun. With Derek transitioning out of the day-to-day operations of innovative solutions, he found himself reflecting on the lasting legacy he wanted to leave behind, not just as a businessman, but as a mentor, a father, and a beacon for others striving to make a difference. His departure from the company was bittersweet, but he felt confident in the new leadership team that had emerged, many of whom he had mentored personally. As he sat in his office for the last time, looking out over the city where it all began, Derek realized that he had done what he set out to do. He had built a company that embodied his values, and more importantly, had created a space where people from all walks of life could thrive. "Ready for this next chapter?" Michael asked, walking into the office with a smile. Derek nodded. "I think I'm ready. It's time for me to step back and allow others to carry the torch." Michael, who had been with Derek from the early days, looked at him thoughtfully. "You've done more than just build a company, Derek. You've changed the way people think about business. And you've shown them that they don't have to choose between doing good and doing well." Derek's focus shifted to philanthropic efforts, especially in the areas of education and technology access for underserved communities. With his daughter Maya growing up fast, Derek knew that the world was evolving, and his next phase would be about ensuring that the tools of the future were available to everyone, not just the privileged. One of his first initiatives was to launch a global scholarship program for young people from marginalized backgrounds who wanted to pursue careers in tech and entrepreneurship. This scholarship not only provided funding for tuition, but also included mentorship and internship opportunities at some of the leading companies in the industry, including Innovative Solutions. "Let's make sure these kids have everything we didn't," Derek said during the launch event. "They have the potential to change the world, and it's our job to give them the tools they need to do it." The response was overwhelming. Applications came in from all over the world, from young people who had dreams of building the next big thing. Derek was filled with hope, knowing that the next generation was hungry for change and ready to make their mark. Just when Derek thought he had everything figured out, life threw him another curveball. One of the communities where innovative solutions had been working closely was hit by a sudden economic crisis. Local businesses began shutting down, leaving thousands of people without jobs. The initiatives Derek had worked so hard to implement were at risk. Derek knew that his philanthropic vision couldn't just rely on good intentions. It had to be adaptable, sustainable, and able to weather the storms of the world. This crisis was his test. He immediately reached out to his network, tapping into the resources of both his company and his supporters. He coordinated a series of relief programs, offering training and job placement services, while also facilitating partnerships with local businesses to provide immediate work for those affected. "I won't let them fall through the cracks," Derek told his team. "We're not just helping people find jobs. We're helping them rebuild their lives. We owe them that much." The response from both the community and his company's employees was incredible. They rallied around Derek's leadership, working together to not only provide immediate relief, but also to create long-term solutions for sustainable economic growth. That as Derek's philanthropic efforts continued to grow, he found a new rhythm in life. No longer consumed by the day-to-day grind of running a company, he was able to spend more time with Maya and truly enjoy the moments they had together. One Saturday, as they sat on the porch of their home, watching the sunset, Derek reflected on everything he had been through. He realized that while the world had changed in many ways, it had also stayed the same in others. People still struggled with the same issues he had faced when he first started his journey, the fight for equality, for opportunity, for a fair shot at success. "Dad, do you think the world will be better when I grow up?" Maya asked, her young voice full of curiosity. Derek smiled, pulling her closer. "I think the world is already better, Maya, because you're growing up in it. And you'll make it even better by the time you're ready to lead." One morning, Derek received a call that would change the course of his life once again. The President of the United States had invited him to participate in a global summit on technological innovation and social responsibility. It was an honor and also an opportunity to elevate his message on the world stage. The invitation was unexpected, and it came with a lot of weight. He would be speaking alongside some of the most influential figures in the world, people who had built empires with a completely different philosophy than his own. It was a moment of reckoning. Would he maintain his authenticity, or would he be tempted to compromise in the face of political and economic pressure? Derek knew what he had to do. "This is my chance to make an impact on a larger scale," he said to Michael. "But I can't forget what brought me here in the first place. I have to stay true to my message." Michael looked at him, smiling. "I think you'll do great. You've always spoken from the heart. It's time to do it on the biggest stage yet." The day of the summit arrived, and Derek stood before a room filled with politicians, business leaders, and global influencers. The energy in the room was palpable, but Derek felt a calmness within himself. He knew that this was his moment to truly challenge the world's perspective on what business could and should be. As he stepped up to the podium, he saw Maya in the front row, her eyes filled with pride. It was then that he realized the impact of his work wasn't just on his company or the industry. It was on the next generation. "Good morning," Derek began. "When I started Innovative Solutions, I had no idea where the journey would take me. But I knew one thing for certain. The world needed more than just products. It needed people who were willing to make a difference, no matter the cost." He spoke passionately about the role of businesses in shaping society, the need for inclusivity and diversity in every industry, and the power of technology to bring people together. He didn't hold back, knowing that the message was too important to SUGARCOA to dot. By the end of his speech, the room was silent. And then, one by one, the applause began, slow at first, but then building in intensity. Derek had done what no one expected. He had delivered a message that resonated not just with his peers, but with the world. The aftermath of the summit was overwhelming. Derek received messages from all corners of the globe, people thanking him for his honesty, for his bravery, and for his unwavering commitment to his values. The media buzzed with praise, but there was a sense of something deeper happening. Derek's words had sparked a larger conversation about the intersection of business, ethics, and social responsibility. As Derek returned home, he felt a sense of peace. He had spoken the truth, and in doing so, he had catalyzed something bigger than himself. The change he had fought for was no longer just an ideal, it was a movement. And it was only just beginning. With the momentum from the summit, Innovative Solutions entered a new phase of its growth. They expanded further into emerging markets, developed new products focused on sustainability, and deepened their commitment to ethical business practices. Derek's role continued to evolve. He was no longer at the helm of day-to-day operations, but he remained the guiding force behind the company's values. His focus now was on ensuring that Innovative Solutions would continue to be a beacon for social change for years to come. And as for Derek, he had found a new sense of balance. The world he had worked so hard to shape was now one that he could walk through, proud of the impact he had made, but also ready for whatever came next. As Innovative Solutions flourished under the leadership of the new generation, Derek found a quiet satisfaction in knowing that the company was not just surviving, but thriving on the principles he had instilled from the beginning. The organization had grown into a global force for good, touching lives and changing the way business was done all over the world. One crisp morning, as Derek met with the new CEO, the young leader asked, "How do you feel about everything we've accomplished?" Derek smiled, his gaze shifting to the skyline outside the office window. "I feel like I've done my part. You all are the ones who'll take this company further. I've only shown you the way. Now it's your turn." As the meeting concluded, Derek stood up, feeling a sense of closure he hadn't expected. It wasn't just the company that was passing the torch. His personal journey was reaching its final chapter too. For the first time in years, Derek had the luxury of slowing down. He no longer woke up to emails or conference calls. His days were now filled with moments he had once missed. Long walks with Maya, watching her grow and learn about the world, and indulging in the small joys of life he had put on hold for so long. "Dad, I want to build something too. Like you," Maya said one evening as they sat on the porch, watching the stars. Derek laughed, a deep, contented sound. "If you want to, you will. But remember, it's not about building something big. It's about building something that matters." The time they spent together allowed Derek to fully appreciate the importance of his role as a father. Maya was growing into a smart, passionate young woman, and Derek could see that she was already beginning to carve her own path, one that would no doubt be shaped by the lessons he had taught her. In the quiet moments of his retreat, Derek spent time reflecting on everything he had been through. He thought about the early struggles, the late nights, the rejection, and the triumphs. He thought about the people who had helped him along the way: Michael, Helen, the team at Innovative Solutions, and his daughter Maya. He realized that his journey had never been just about him. It had been about the relationships he had built, the lives he had touched, and the change he had fought for. His story wasn't one of individual success, but of collective progress. "I think I've finally found peace," Derek whispered to himself one evening, standing on the balcony of his home, watching the sun set. The world had changed, and so had he. Despite his desire for peace and quiet, Derek was still deeply connected to the causes that had always fueled his work. So, he made a final decision to create a foundation in his name one that would ensure the long-term sustainability of the work he had started. The foundation would continue to support education, innovation, and equal access to opportunities. For all, Maya had become deeply involved in the foundation's operations, bringing new ideas and energy to the cause. Derek knew it was the right decision, and the foundation would carry his vision forward for generations to come. "Dad, this is just the beginning," Maya said one day as they finalized the plans. Derek smiled, a sense of fulfillment in his heart. "I know, and I'm proud to see you leading it." As Derek walked into his study one last time to sign the final paperwork for the foundation, he paused and looked around the room. His journey had come full circle. From the young man with a vision to the leader who built a global movement, Derek's legacy was not one of fame or fortune. It was one of purpose and impact. That the next chapter of his life was not about building something new. It was about ensuring that what he had created would continue to thrive long after he was gone. He knew that the real work, the work that truly mattered, was always ongoing, whether in his daughter's hands or the hands of future leaders who would take up the mantle. As he sat down to sign his name for the final time, Derek realized that he had found what he had been searching for all along: a life well lived, a legacy built on love, perseverance, and service to others. The story wasn't over. It had only just begun. And with that thought, Derek took a deep breath, closed his eyes, and smiled.